Welcome back to Murder in the Black. It is your host, Steph.
And I'm MD.
Let's go ahead and get into our true crime case for today.
So grab your coffee if it's the morning, your lemonade if it's the afternoon, or your wine if it's the evening. But either way, let's get into it. Now, our true crime story for today is entitled For the Love of Money. On Sunday, January 17, 2010, the San Antonio, Texas police received a strange call. The caller was requesting that the police come to a graveyard immediately because they saw a dead body. Now, police chuckle because they thought maybe this was a prank. After all, dead bodies are everywhere in a graveyard. But the caller stated that this was in fact no joking matter. They spotted a body as they were walking past the graveyard earlier that day, and initially they thought that the person just passed out in the graveyard and was sleeping. But when they circled back around and they passed the graveyard again, they noticed that the body was in the same place, and so they decided to inspect closer and realized that this person wasn't moving. Now, Steph, I have a quick question for you. Would you inspect closer if you saw a dead body in a graveyard?
I don't think I would by touching it, but I do think I would hover, like while I call 911, like just to inspect, to see if they're breathing or not, because you just never know. There's shallow breathing may look like somebody's dead, so I would want to try to render care if I could. That would be the only reason why.
And that is the nurse in you, right? Like, I think that for me, while maybe I would inspect if I saw a body just like walking on a street, like near a graveyard, I think that would give me some pause, and I may have to just, hey, y'all may just want to come out. This body's not in a grave. Like, it may or may not be dead. I don't know. I'm not getting closer. But when the police arrived, they found a deceased black male with blood in the chest and head area. They noticed that he had been shot several times, but with the lack of blood at the scene, they knew that this graveyard was not the crime scene. The John Doe's body was in lividity and very rigid, but he appeared to be a young man and otherwise in healthy condition. The police head back to the station to begin their search for identifying their John Doe. And they start with the recently filed missing person reports in the area. Luckily, they got a break when they found a missing person report filed on January 13th that matched their general description of John Doe. They reached out to the parents that filed that missing persons report. But while the police were reaching out to the parents, the medical examiner conducted the autopsy of the John Doe. John Doe was shot in his head. He had two gunshots to his forearms and hands, 3 shots in his torso, and the ME believed that it was a .22 caliber gun that inflicted these wounds. There was also a contusion on his head, which the ME believed was inflicted while John Doe was alive because it was swollen and bleeding. They knew he was hit in the head, but they were unsure what caused that trauma. Now, armed with this information, the police were confident that it was likely that the John Doe knew his killer. The police knew in order to understand who did this, they had to find out who John Doe was. And after speaking with the parents who filed the missing persons report, they believed they were one step closer to solving this case. On January 13th, 2010, Samuel Johnson was reported missing by his parents. He was 22 years old and failed to call or respond to anyone, which was highly unusual for him. After all, he was a family guy and he was not the kind of person to just fall off the face of the earth. So his parents immediately went to the police to alert them that their son was missing. But like most cases involving an adult missing person, unless there are obvious signs of foul play, police don't typically rush to concern because, as we've stated multiple times on Murder in the Black, adults have a right to go missing. But after speaking with the parents, the police were confident that their John Doe was in fact Samuel Johnson. And they also learned from the parents that Samuel's vehicle was missing. The next day, they put a bolo out on Samuel's vehicle and they find it immediately. When they processed the vehicle, they learned that there were no prints in the car, there were no bullet holes on the vehicles. They were confident that the car was not the crime scene. But someone did purposely wipe the prints off of the car, and there was blood found in the trunk. That blood did belong to Samuel. The police now believe that Samuel was killed and then placed in the trunk of his car and later dumped at the graveyard. Steph, can you tell us, who is Samuel Johnson?
Samuel Johnson was born in San Antonio on December 8th, 1982. He was 22 years old and the oldest of 3 siblings. He was described as smart and determined. He loved his family and he was adored by all who knew him. Samuel wanted to be an attorney, a goal he set for himself after he took a field trip to the courthouse when he was in junior high. After high school, Samuel met the love of his life, Erica Bridgeforth. They met in 2004 when he was 19 years old at his job where he was a check cashier. She walked in trying to cash her check and they instantly connected. Not only did Samuel adore Erica, but so did Samuel's family, which, that's an interesting dynamic because most of the times, don't you think, MD, you want your family, if you have a close relationship with them, you want them to love the person you're with, right?
Absolutely. I think that's what you always especially when you are close with your family. I think when you're not close with your family, you probably couldn't care less. But when you are close with your family, you want them to like who you like. So this was such an interesting dynamic because here Samuel falls head over heels for Erica, and so does his family.
Yeah, and that can present a problem if you break up.
Right. Foreshadowing?
Yeah. But after 4 years together, Samuel broke it off with Erica. His family was astonished because they couldn't believe that he would mess up a good thing with Erica. But Samuel didn't feel ready. He wasn't sure if he wanted to settle down just yet and wanted to make room to focus on his dreams of becoming an attorney. Despite his family's disappointment, Samuel moved forward. He went to law school and was working toward his goal of becoming an attorney. I have a question for you guys. Do you think it's admirable that Samuel moved on, broke up with her, didn't cheat, but just decided, I'm not ready? And a lot of times that can be a cover-up, right? MD, what you think?
It could be a cover-up, and I think that, because we don't know Samuel personally, we don't really know if it was or not. But I do think that his age is very telling. He met Erica when he was just 19 years old, and so he was still very young. You're still trying to figure out who you are, what do you like? And I remember when I was in college in the very beginning years, I really was just desperate to know me outside of my family dynamic, me outside of a relationship, me outside of my friendships. Like, what do I like? I remember going to ballets and dances on my own just because I wanted to know, do I like this? Not does my friend like it, so I like it, or my boyfriend likes it, so I like it, or my daddy likes it, so I like it. I wanted to just genuinely know what my ear liked, right? And I think, it could be that it was a cover up. He just wanted to kind of date around. But it could also be he really was like, I don't know me enough and I want to know who I am. I want to be sure if I get married. And if that was the case, I can relate and I can understand that.
I think overall, just the fact that he had the courage to go against what his family thought and maybe what even Erica thought at the time is, in my mind, courageous. This was short-lived because he needed money to continue to put himself through school. He took a break to earn money. During this time, he worked at a gym where he met Vanessa Cameron. Vanessa was older than him, but only by 3 years. She was 26 and he was 23. But despite their age difference, they hit it off. She was outgoing, fun, and easy to be around, and her and Samuel seemed like a good match. Although she was more settled than Samuel, their connection seemed genuine. Soon after they started dating, Vanessa purchased a home and Samuel moved in. And then a year later, they had a son together. Things were seemingly progressing well. Samuel adored his son and he fell into the father role naturally. But all this changed in April of 2009 when tragedy struck. A fire destroyed Vanessa's home, and although no one was injured, Vanessa and Samuel lost everything. Luckily, Vanessa had the house insured, so she received more than $300,000 for the damage. Then Samuel, Vanessa, and their son moved in with Vanessa's sister Susan and live-in boyfriend BJ Brown, who welcomed them into their home so they could begin to pick up the pieces of their life after the devastation from the fire. But the loss of the fire didn't cause external damage, but internally as well among Vanessa and Samuel. They began to argue and fight over everything. And although Vanessa wanted to make the relationship work, Samuel wasn't willing to. He felt like Vanessa was using the money she received from the fire in a controlling way. And she refused to give him any money, even though he had personal things he lost in the fire as well. Soon after they moved in with Susan and her boyfriend, BJ, Samuel broke it off with Vanessa and moved out. He went to live with his brother and started to pick up the pieces of his life. Not long after he moved in with his brother, he ran into his long-lost love, Erica. They rekindled their friendship and soon after their relationship. They both believed that they were now older, more mature, and ready to settle down with each other. Samuel proposed to Erica, and at the end of December of 2009, she found out they were expecting a baby. But 5 days later, Samuel would go missing.
Now, Steph, before we go into what happened and why he went missing, I want to know your thoughts just about, do you think that Samuel was owed any money from that fire? Like, Vanessa insured the house, Samuel lived there. He had personal things that were in that house that he also lost. Now, while his name wasn't on the mortgage, and I don't know if Samuel was paying bills, he did lose things in the fire. Do you think she owed him any money?
Yeah, I do. I just believe in right is right and wrong is wrong. And, despite maybe the legalities of it, right? Like, which I'm sure, you as a lawyer could argue that, or maybe even he could. But I just feel like, he lived in that home with you. Y'all shared it together. You were raising your son. You were in a relationship. And he had things that were valuable to him that he was never able to recover. You should give him some money back.
Absolutely. And Steph, honestly, I think that legally he was owed that money as well.
Great.
Well, after learning more about Samuel, the police wanted to understand from his parents and his fiance, what were Samuel's last days like? Samuel's parents shared with the police that the last time they spoke with Sam, he was on his way to take his ex-girlfriend Vanessa and his son to the airport. Vanessa was headed to Mississippi to visit friends, and Samuel provided her with a ride to the airport. The police then learned from Erica that after he took Vanessa to the airport, he stopped by her house. Samuel told Erica that Vanessa finally agreed to give him some money from the insurance for the things he lost in the fire, and that he was going to go by Vanessa's sister's house to pick up that money. He told Erica that he would then go to work after he picked the money up and then come back to Erica's house the next day. However, Erica would never see or hear from Samuel again. The police check Erica and his parents' alibis and they check out. And so the police know that they rule them out easily as suspects. But what they do know is that they need to talk with Vanessa and Susan. Before they can arrange a time to bring Vanessa and Susan into the station, they receive a strange call from a mother who stated that Vanessa was visiting her daughter Adrian in Mississippi, and that Adrian had some weird conversations with Vanessa that may be relevant to the murder of Samuel. The police immediately call Adrian, and they learn that Vanessa and Adrian are best friends. Vanessa surprised Adrian in Mississippi for her birthday on January 13th, and while she was so happy to see her, there were some weird things that transpired during the visit. Adrian goes on to tell the police that shortly after Vanessa arrived, she was on the phone and just seemed very shaken and disturbed after her call. When she questioned Vanessa about the call, Vanessa told her that it was Sam and that even though they were supposed to be working on their relationship, he was demanding the money from the fire. She was visibly upset about it, but eventually let it go. After a couple of hours, Vanessa receives another phone call. And after that call, Vanessa was completely shaken up. She explained to Adrian that the call was from her sister's boyfriend, BJ, who said that he thinks they accidentally killed Samuel. Adrian was alarmed by this, and she asked Vanessa Who is they? Vanessa says BJ, her sister Susan, and BJ's cousin Lakeisha. She further explains that they met Samuel at a gas station, got into a fight, and he hit his head on the curb. They freaked out and left him there. They aren't even sure if he's dead or not. Adrian calms Vanessa down and tells her, this is highly unlikely that Samuel is dead, and surely that isn't what happened. Vanessa wouldn't stop bringing it up, though, and Adrian ended up getting into it the next day, which caused Vanessa to leave Mississippi early and head back to Texas. After explaining all this to the police now believe it's urgent that they get in contact with Vanessa and Susan.
Vanessa and Susan come into the police station. Vanessa confirms that she was indeed in Mississippi the day he went missing and came back the day he was found. She told the police that he was not getting back with Erica and that she is confident that it was Erica who killed Samuel. Wow. Just wow.
She completely flipped that script, right? So what she told her best friend Adrian is now a completely different story than what she's telling the police.
Right.
Steph, I'm interested though, just to backtrack real quick before you continue. How would you have felt if this was your best friend, right? Like, so your best friend comes and visits you, and then all of these calls happen. And then one of the calls, she tells you that her sister's boyfriend accidentally kills your baby's father. I mean, I just want to know, what would you have done? Adrian here just kind of writes it off like, girl, this is not even real. How would you have handled that?
Just the natural sleuth in me would have been asking all types of questions. Like, okay, so what happened? That's not good enough. What ensued? Because killing somebody is a big deal.
So and accidentally killing somebody at that. Yes. What is even happening? Right. Yeah, I don't think that, although I can see how Adrian kind of just was like, girl, what? And especially if she's not a true crime sleuth like, you and I are, I can see how you can easily just be like, girl, I'm sure he's not dead. He probably just hit his head. He may have passed out for a second. He's probably fine. But I would have been like, why are y'all fighting him? What is happening? What is going on? You may want to call the police. You want, if he is dead, you want to get somebody out there to help. I just feel like I would have just went. That's where I would have went.
I would have asked all types of different questions to the point where they probably would stop talking to me, because what is going on in this situation? It's just odd. Susan was in a different room. She was very calm and talkative, but the police decided to use the age-old tactic of trying to get Susan to flip by saying that Vanessa was in the other room telling them everything, specifically that her and BJ killed Samuel. As soon as they do this, Susan says she didn't say that. No, she didn't. All the while smiling and laughing. She then tells police that she is about to go, and she gets up and leaves the station with nothing to hold Susan. They can't prevent her from leaving. The police then go back and do the same thing they did to Susan to see if it would work on her, and it does. Vanessa immediately starts talking, and she blames everything on her sister, Susan. She tells the police that she wasn't involved and that Susan called her while she was in Mississippi and told her that Sam was dead. She tells the police that she believes Susan did it because she was off her meds. Susan did have mental health issues, and Vanessa attempted to use this as a reason for Sam's death. Not long after Susan left, she comes back to the station and tells police that she is ready to talk. During this interview, Susan tells it all, and she doesn't start with Sam's murder. Instead, she starts with the fire. Susan shares with the police that Vanessa was pure evil, that she manipulated her whole life, and the fire was no different. She tells police that she started the fire in a trash can in order to get the insurance money. She then proceeded to use the insurance money as a way to control her and her boyfriend, BJ. Vanessa blew through all the insurance money in 8 months and was looking to have another payday. That's when she came to Susan and BJ with a plan. Samuel took out a life insurance policy for $750,000 for his son, and he told Vanessa about it. Vanessa decided that Sam was worth more dead than alive, and that if BJ and Susan wanted to continue to reap the benefits, they had to kill him. Specifically, Vanessa told Susan to kill him, but Susan said she couldn't do it. BJ said he would do it. You know what? How did that conversation go exactly? Like, I can't do it. You need to do it. I can't do it. All right, I'll do it.
What? I just so willy-nilly. You have to be so cavalier about human life that you're just like, okay, I'll do it. For what? Some coins? For some money? For just a little bit of money too. A little bit of money that obviously you blew through in 8 months. You blew through more than $300,000 in 8 months.
That is wild.
Absolutely insane. And she wasn't paying a mortgage, right? Because she was living with her sister. So how you blow through $300,000 in less than 8 months, or in 8 months, is absolutely insane to me. And then you're gonna get a pay cut of the $750,000. You're not gonna get the full $750,000. Right. You're getting a pay cut of it. And Susan's like, I can't do it. I'm not gonna be able to do that. BJ's like, well, all right,
I'm your man.
I got it.
All right. BJ then contacted his cousin, Lakeisha, to help him complete the job. Susan explains that Vanessa decided to take a sporadic trip to Mississippi and that she was gone. They had to complete the job. Vanessa told them she would send Samuel over to the house to get his portion of the money, and that's when they would have their opportunity. Susan said when Samuel arrived, she went upstairs while BJ and Lakeisha completed the job. At this point, the police bring in BJ and Lakeisha to figure out if either of them would corroborate Susan's story. BJ comes in and tells the police that he doesn't even associate with Vanessa.
Even though she lived with him. I don't associate with her. We live together. She lives in my house. She's my girlfriend's sister. But I don't associate with her.
I don't even know who she is.
Who is she? I don't even know that man. Okay, what?
Wild. So he started to cry, saying that he didn't kill Sam and he would never do anything like that. Lakeisha also came into the station, and unlike BJ, she sings like a canary bird. She tells the police that BJ solicited her to help her kill Samuel with a promise from Vanessa for money and a new car. She tells the police that when Samuel came to the house, she hit him with a board on the back of his head, and then BJ handcuffed him and tied rope around his feet, and duct taped his mouth. Then they put him in the trunk, drove him out to the country, and took all the ropes and handcuffs off. And then BJ shot Sam 9 times. They then put his body back in the trunk of the car. They dismantled the gun and threw it in multiple locations all over. She told the police that they left the car abandoned and went home. They asked Lakeisha how the body ended up at the graveyard, and she tells them she isn't sure because they left the body in the trunk of the car. The police surmised that some carjackers found the car, and when they found that there was a body in the trunk, they then dumped the body off at the cemetery. They were like, you know what? We need this car. We need to drop this body off. Not call for help. Not say, because I guess they couldn't.
No, because they jacked the car. They were thieves. Like, they were like, I can't even. So I'm gonna just take this body to a graveyard. Somebody will find the body. Wow. That way, somebody gets this man. We didn't kill this man. So let's wipe this car down to make sure that our prints aren't associated with it, because we just were still in the car, which was just sitting here abandoned. So it's not even like it's on us. We was just, and we're gonna drive it around a little bit more. But then now we got to get rid of the car because it is hot. So
right. Lakeisha didn't stop there. She also took police to the ranch where they killed Sam. It was there that the police found shell casings, handcuffs, rope, which corroborated Lakeisha's story.
Police confront Vanessa with all of this testimony from Lakeisha, from Susan, and of course, Vanessa changes her story again. Now get this. This time, Vanessa's story, because I just want to show you the progression of her story, because her story starts with Adrian. Remember, she tells Adrian, hey, BJ and Susan and Lakeisha were beating up Sam at the gas station. He hit his head on the curb and he accidentally died. Okay. Then the story goes to Erica did it. It wasn't me. Erica did it. Then the story goes to, no, my sister. It was my sister. She was off her meds. So that's probably why, this ended up happening. To now, her story says that she did arrange Sam's murder. Or she did arrange for Sam to be killed. But it's only because he wanted to be killed, because he took out the insurance policy and he wanted his son to have the money, and he didn't have the courage to kill himself. So she followed through with this complicated suicide of arranging for others to kill him. I mean, what? Like, what? So, of course, the police don't buy this, and they, arrest and charge Vanessa with murder. Now, she wasn't upset, and she showed no signs of emotion. I mean, when I say, if this is not the classic case of a narcissist, I don't know what is. Like, let's paint her picture and put it next to the word in the dictionary. Leading up to the trial, police continue to find damning evidence against Vanessa. Less than 24 hours after Sam's body was found, Vanessa calls his job and she tries to get his last paycheck and collect the insurance money based on the fact that she was his common law wife. I mean, I just cannot even wrap my mind around the stupidity of this. And I just want to drop a little nugget it's not necessarily relevant to this case, but I think it's just also insightful to her absolute stupidity. Her mother was a San Antonio police detective. So, you would think that she has some level of knowledge of how that could make her look complicit in the murder. You're gonna less than 24 hours. He ain't even in the grave. And you gonna call the cop, or you gonna call his job and say, hey, can I get his last paycheck? I mean, I just want to know. And what about his life insurance policy? It's for my son. I'm his common law wife. Whew. At trial, Vanessa blames her sister and her boyfriend for the murder. But the jury doesn't buy it. Within 1 hour, they return a guilty verdict, and she receives 75 years in prison. Now, she does get this verdict overturned on a technicality of her right to have a public trial, because at her trial, her family was not allowed in the courtroom, but it was because the courtroom was so crowded and they came late, and so they turned them away. And so her attorneys use this as, a violation of her constitutional rights. They go back, she gets a new trial. They uphold her conviction. She still receives 70 years for the murder of Samuel Johnson. And after her trial, BJ Brown goes to trial. Now, get this. Because of a rule in Texas, he was acquitted for the murder of Samuel. Now, this Texas rule is found in the Texas Code of Criminal Procedures. It states that a conviction cannot be based solely on the testimony of an accomplice. Therefore, there must be additional evidence outside of the testimony of the accomplice that ties the defendant to the crime. And you can't merely just show that the crime was committed. It's not enough to corroborate his complicity, because the only evidence they had was Lakeisha, his cousin, and Susan, his girlfriend. They were not able to convict him based on this rule alone. They never found the gun because, they dismantled it, according to Lakeisha, and threw it in multiple places. Like, they were never able to even link the gun to BJ. They had nothing to tie him to this crime other than Lakeisha and Susan saying, yep, he did it. As a result, he has never served any time for the murder of Samuel Johnson. Now, Lakeisha and Susan pled guilty, and they testified against Vanessa and BJ in hopes for a lighter sentence. Lakeisha and Susan both received 20 plus year sentences. Now, Erica did give birth to her and Samuel's son in 2010. And because of the greed of Vanessa, Susan, Lakeisha, and BJ, their son will never know Samuel personally. But Samuel's family vows to keep his legacy and his memory alive.
Takeaway. Oh, I will do the takeaway for today. And it's kind of funny how a lot of these true crimes, especially when you're dealing with relationships, it crosses over. And so you find yourself being somewhat redundant in the takeaway. But just yesterday, I released the episode on our paid subscription, and I gave all the warning signs to controllers and manipulators and kind of went into detail about what those red flags are. Because often we talk about those red flags on our platform and we don't go into much detail. So I wanted to provide context to what manipulation and coercion can lead to. In summary, manipulation and coercion is in relationship involves tactics that exploit the victim's vulnerabilities, fostering dependency and diminishing their autonomy. Abusers may employ strategies such as love bombing, gaslighting, intimidation to maintain control over their partner and isolate them from support systems. And when you look back at this case, that's exactly what she did. She really was trying to control Samuel and trying to get him to do what she wanted when it came to this money. And because it was technically her money, she could do that. And that's how she got him over to the house. He realized this is toxic. I need to get away. I think it's important in all that we keep a watchful eye on the tactics that people who claim they love us, because I think we can turn a blind eye to that, right? When you love somebody, you're trying to see the best in them. And it's unfortunate because at any point in time, did she think about her child or his child soon to come? It was all about money and greed. And the fact that people think the most easiest way to make money is to take someone's life will forever blow my mind.
Steph, I agree. And I think she obviously had this manipulative spirit, not just with Samuel, but with her sister. She had this manipulative spirit with how she tried to get over with the fire. This girl was just pure evil. And she was willing to do whatever, step on whoever, get over on whoever to get ahead in life. And that's just kind of the way she saw it. And she didn't care how it was going to affect anybody, her son, her sister, her family, her parents. Like, her parents lost both of her siblings. I mean, both of their daughters to the system that her mother dedicated her career to enforcing justice. I mean, it's just pure craziness to me. And she's obviously right where she belongs. And it's just unfortunate that Samuel had to be a bystander and a victim of her narcissistic ways.
Absolutely. That is our case for today. I wanted to share some news with you guys on November 10th, which is actually MD's birthday.
Hey.
On Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, I will be featured on Oxygen's A Plan to Kill. That's just us getting out there. And we're excited to share that news with you guys and encourage you to support us on this journey. And fingers crossed, we hope to both be featured on other true crime networks. So we will see you guys next time. Share if you care this episode with friends and family. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review. And until next time, continue to support us via Wine Tales and Storytime with Steph. We'll see you guys next week.